Oops, I think I just wrote a script for a My Little Pony episode review. Uh, yeah, I think I'm just gonna blame Mary Sue for this one. My Little Pony has always been a show that teaches everyday life lessons in a way that doesn't feel preachy or obnoxious. It's also a show that constantly uses the fashion industry for how to deal with certain issues. Back in season 1, in the episode Green Isn't Your Colour, we deal with the issue of jealousy, but we also deal with honesty. Fluttershy hated being a model, but in spite of her lack of confidence in herself, she didn't want to disappoint Rarity after all the encouragement she gave her. Another episode from season 1, and one of my personal favourites, Suited for Success, shows how hard Rarity is willing to work to please her friends when she offers to make each of them their own dresses for the Galloping Gala. It is an episode that teaches you not to look a gift horse in the mouth. Pun 100% intended. This is a show I adore, and more often than not, when it deals with issues like this, it usually handles it in a way that is simple for anyone of any age to understand. But in this episode, it feels very condescending, and for Applejack especially, it paints her in a very poor light. Applejack is the element of honesty, a character trait that many shows find difficult to teach. Honesty requires a lot of courage, respect, responsibility, and good judgment. Honesty should be shown as a positive social character trait, and it is. It shows integrity. It shows that a character has no desire to lie, steal, or deceive anyone. But honesty on its own is not enough. Sometimes honesty also calls for being diplomatic. Being sensitive in dealing with others so they can achieve peaceful resolutions or facilitate discussion. Applejack isn't one to take sides in a fight. Instead, she would help others to resolve their differences. In this episode, though, Applejack seems to take several steps backwards in her character development for the sake of the lesson being taught in this episode, removing any sense of tact she may have previously had. Being honest with someone is often a very difficult thing to do. Some people find it stressful to convey their opinions without hurting someone's feelings, and some people just say what they think without caring how it affects the person. People often say that everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Yeah, and that's true, but that doesn't mean anyone is exempt from the consequences that can come with stating your opinion. You want to be truthful, but also tactful. You want to be kind, but also genuine. Sadly, no matter how you construct your opinion, you are going to offend someone, and if a statement is taken out of context, well, that is a painful lesson learned. Sometimes opinions become personal and can turn hurtful. For whatever reason, some people love an argument for the sake of it. They'll want to win an argument no matter what, even if that means they have to change their opinion for the sake of a win, which is really pathetic. Sometimes people can think that only certain opinions are valid, depending on their experiences. For instance, a world-famous chef's opinion on how someone cooks may seem more valid than someone who is simply a close friend. Why? Because of experience and understanding. One is able to convey their opinion with experience and knowledge, allowing the person to learn from them. But a close friend's opinion is just as valid because they'll give their opinion on how the food tastes because they represent the everyday Joe. The friend may be biased, but if they know you and they're a good friend, they'll be honest in what they think. But you'll also take on board the opinion of the chef because they represent the professional and how the food would cope in the industry if you decide to go down that road. Giving an opinion is not the same as giving a critique though, which is something I have learned over the years as a full-time artist. The problem starts when you have both of these people in the same room together when giving their opinion on something, and that is why there's so many problems in this episode. I have said before that constructive criticism should be given in a coherent, respectful and knowledgeable way. I've also said that constructive criticism should come from people we know and trust, or from people who have the experience and knowledge to give the constructive criticism from a place of understanding and respect. Opinions are no different. But what exactly is the difference between an opinion and a criticism? Opinion is a view or a judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. Criticism, though, is the expression of disapproval of someone or something on the basis of perceived faults or mistakes. Constructive criticism, though, is the process of offering valid and well-reasoned opinions about the work of others, usually involving both positive and negative comments in a friendly manner rather than an oppositional one. If someone gives you constructive criticism, they are doing so because they want to see you improve. It's important to learn to recognize the motive behind when someone gives opinions or critiques, and if they're being vague, ask them for more information. When we're still learning and still young, sometimes a negative comment or poorly constructive critique can kill the passion we have to create. True, you have to have thick skin to survive in this industry, but people also need to learn how to give effective constructive criticism, and not just simply blame the person for being unable to take their so-called constructive criticism on board. I feel this episode of My Little Pony was trying to teach this, but instead of having Applejack learn how to be constructive or take the time to understand what fashion means to Rarity, she simply grows angry and argues with the professionals and goes as far as damaging the creative works instead of showing she is willing to learn. I have said in the past that in order for someone to give constructive criticism, they need to have knowledge and understanding of what it is they're critiquing. But to give an opinion on something, you don't necessarily need to know or understand something fully, because an opinion is based more on our personal taste rather than experiences. It doesn't make it any less valid, but it does make it often more difficult to process and communicate. In this episode, Rarity is planning a fashion contest and handing out flyers before actually, finalizing who the judges are. Yeah, this is smart. Spike, casually spying on her from a nearby conveniently off-screen bush, casually walking past, offers to assist her. Oh, Spike, still gnawing away at that bone, are we? Interspecies relationships aside, Rarity lets Spike assist her, not from taking advantage, but because it's in Spike's nature to assist, and to stop someone doing that can hinder a friendship more than we realise. But that's not the topic at hand here. Yeah, I go on tangents a lot, huh? Pinkie Pie thinks a fashion contest is a great idea, showing Rarity support. Applejack, though, is forced out of her comfort zone and into a role that is pretty unorthodox, at least for her. Rarity has picked her to be one of the judges of her fashion contest, which even Pinkie Pie finds a bit weird. Yeah, if Pinkie Pie finds something weird, you might want to make a change. Believing that Applejack's sense of practicality and simplicity would provide a fourth element to the judge panel, Rarity asks Applejack to join Hoity Toity and Photo Finish to be judges. Art contests are great opportunities to get your work noticed. They encourage competitiveness. They challenge you to develop your work more and get to know the industry. It also gives you the opportunity to meet other artists who are in the same position as you. However, not all contests are there to actually help new and upcoming artists. Some companies run contests simply so they can get free artwork and get out of paying a professional artist. And half the time they don't actually give the artist any exposure that they promised in the first place. I'm not saying don't enter art contests, I'm saying do your research before you do. Knowledge and understanding goes a long way. Rarity has always been a fashion designer who remembers how far she had to come before breaking into the industry. She wants to give new designers opportunities she had to fight for. Convincing two of the industry elites like Hoity Toity and Photo Finish to be judges lets the new designers know that this is an opportunity that shouldn't be missed or treated lightly. An opportunity Rarity had to fight for in the past. It shows that Rarity really is a true artist. As my favourite artist Salvador Dali says, a true artist is not one who is inspired, but one who inspires others. But anyone who is a fan of this show, or even someone new, can instantly tell that this is going to be a disaster. And Rarity set this up for herself. You have more judges than actual nominees, Rarity. Did you really need Applejack as well? The phrase "too many cooks in the kitchen" springs to mind here. When too many people are trying to control, influence, or work on something, sometimes the quality of the final product will suffer as a result. With 4 judges for a contest with just 3 entries, 3 of which are considered to be part of Equestria's fashion elite, you're already putting the entrants under pressure. Adding a 4th judge seems overkill and pointless other than serving to teach a lesson. When Applejack, Hoity Toity and Photo Finish go with Rarity to meet the young designers, we see that Hoity Toity and Photo Finish are receptive and encouraging. But they're also very vague. Receiving nothing but positive feedback is encouraging, but it doesn't give any direction. And with Applejack being the only judge giving any kind of negative comments, she's automatically made to look like the bad guy here. Being honest without a sense of tact isn't honesty, it's bluntness. Bluntness is when someone speaks in a direct but rude way with no consideration about what the consequences may be. This puts Rarity in an awkward position because she did ask for Applejack to give her honest opinions. The problem first stems from Rarity asking Applejack to be a judge in the first place, but the main problem starts when Applejack agrees without doing any prior research or preparation or understanding what fashion means to Rarity and the rest of the judges and the entrants. Making the effort to construct what you have to say shows that you are willing to make the effort to deliver a message to someone and therefore showing you care for them and want to see them improve. For me, it's all in the delivery. Because Applejack is offering nothing but negativity here, she becomes very unlikable, and since she is the lead in this story, this makes this episode hard to watch and the message and lesson difficult to convey. Characters make mistakes, but there needs to be some empathy as to why. We don't empathize with Applejack here. Instead, we feel sorry for the students. When Applejack gives her honest opinion on the designer's outfits, she says that Inky Rose's outfit has far too many buttons, making it a pain to put on. So Inky Rose removes the buttons and asks, "Is this better?" Often when someone gives an opinion on something we make, we will change it instead of explaining why it is the way it is. Inky Rose may have removed the buttons purely because she didn't really have the experience on how to fight her corner. We will change it instead of explaining why it is the way it is. There's nothing wrong with how it was constructed. The buttons weren't incorrect in any way. The buttons weren't falling off or anything. There were just too many of them. And though Applejack may have been right, Inky Rose has now destroyed her design to please Applejack instead of sticking to her guns. Then with Lily Lace's design, she literally destroys the hat because you don't need feathers on your head. This was the last straw for me. Causing an artist to change their work is one thing, but going in and destroying hours worth of intricate sewing is going too far. This is where Rarity should have intervened. But instead, we get the only scene where we actually understand Applejack's frustration when Photo Finish and Hoity Toity argue over which belt would complement Starstreak's design. Both belts are exactly the same, and though we see why Applejack finds this ridiculous, which it is, she shouts that fashion is ridiculous and doesn't understand why everyone in the room is upset. The judges and the designer storm out, ruining Rarity's fashion contest. She says it's just her honest opinion, and she's not going to lie. So, since Applejack refuses to apologise, Rarity takes her to see Strawberry Sunrise to give her a taste of her own medicine. Strawberry Sunrise doesn't like apples, and Applejack gets defensive, taking her opinion personally. Strawberry didn't care how her opinion would affect Applejack. She was asked for her opinion and gave it. Though Strawberry got personal, giving Applejack every right to be angry, it was a good way to teach Applejack a lesson about tact. Though she did apologise to the designers and the other judges by saying she may not understand fashion, but she does appreciate the value of hard work and what fashion means to them and Rarity. How the episode ends, though, is frustrating. Instead of picking one winner, which was, the reason why the judges were asked to come up there in the first place, Applejack decided to pick all three because they all deserved to win. People need to learn that in any industry, people compete for a limited resource. Some will succeed and some won't. There's a benefit to losing. You get to learn from your mistakes. But if everyone wins, no one learns and therefore they gain no experience. And then they believe that opportunities will be handed to them regardless of how hard they work. It's a wrong message to give, and the sooner this sort of thing changes in children's media, the better. Overall, this episode was awkward. If the episode focused on the absurdness of fashion more instead of Applejack's bluntness, we may have been able to empathize with her more when she goes too far. Instead, she comes off as angry, aloof and stuck up. Not the Applejack we know at all. Still, it was an interesting episode to return to in regard of its lesson and theme. Not a bad episode really, just a little confused. I'm Mad Munchkin, stay creative.